Good morning, Dr. Holman. This is Dorothy Gudgel speaking, and here is the audio for my final project PowerPoint presentation. It is December 10th today, 2015. My name is Dorothy Gudgel, and I have been an adult education ESOL teacher with the Fairfax County Public Schools for 8 years. This is a picture of me that was taken at VIU in 2012. It is on the website, the VIU website. And as you can see from the images on the slide, I teach at the ACE Learning Center in Herndon. I teach two-level classes, ESL classes, low beginning and low intermediate. My students are immigrant students, mostly from Central America, Asia, South America, and the Middle East. Their purpose for learning English is to organize a new life for themselves and their families in America. They do not have academic goals as the university students at VIU do, for example. And the majority of my students have little formal education in their native languages, something very important in terms of creating lesson plan materials for this low-level English language learners. Methodology for my lesson plans in this course. I focus mainly on Nation's 4 strands: principles of language learning, meaning-focused input, learners receiving messages. Very important, material should be suitable to the learner's English language proficiency level. Meaning-focused output, learners producing messages to others, as in emails and writing assignments. Learning-focused learning, learners focusing on the grammar-related issues in spoken and written text. The learners focusing on the language features of the English language. And finally, fluency development, which mainly focuses on speed reading, speed reading, not applicable really to my low beginners. And I described this and mentioned this in the coursework discussion forums that we did throughout the course. And I think I mentioned this also in my final lesson plan, that this aspect of Nation's methodology is really not applicable to my low beginning learners. Okay, here we have my low beginning reading plan with a visual of the big picture page in the higher book. It's a story of a little boy who was saved from drowning by a woman, only to have the same little boy grown up save her husband from drowning at the same beach 10 years later. The students love this story, and I described this in the final lesson plan that I submitted to you. The before, during, and after activities. We have the big picture displayed in the slide here. During reading activities, pause and predict, from Gibbons. The metacognitive think aloud strategy, where the teacher reads out loud and focuses on grammar issues, vocabulary, and themes in the story. And then the after reading activities, I designed the lesson plan to include jumbled sentence activities from Gibbons, in which we do the word order game, and we do sentence strips and cut up caption pictures, as well as the written exercises by Hire, which are excellent. And why try to reinvent the wheel when the written exercises provided in the textbook stories that I described at great length in the course by Hire are excellent. Okay, here is the low beginning writing lesson plan. Slide 6. So the reason why, I haven't gotten to the low intermediate slide yet. Sorry. Okay, the low beginning writing lesson plan. This was a topic of food. The students wrote about their favorite food and their native cultures. We had a warm-up brainstorming activity followed by the computer lab, where they collaborated in pairs on the computer, and worked on a graphic organizer worksheet, which is the focused writing for this low beginning writing lesson plan. They compiled booklets back in the classroom of a visual of the list of ingredients of the favorite food, and the graphic organizer compiled these booklets back in the classroom and then presented their booklets to the whole class. This is a 2-day activity. This is a very well designed lesson plan, in my opinion, and I plan to implement this in January when I return to work with the low beginners. There's a lot of opportunity for peer review with them and going and sharing their booklets with each other and critiquing their booklets. It's not always easy to implement peer review with this level of English language learners. Okay, the descriptive paragraph for the low intermediates. This I designed because to better meet the parameters of our course assignments, in which we had to describe the 6 stages of writing, which is why I chose the descriptive paragraph assignment with this higher level of students, which I do teach. So we have a descriptive paragraph where the students learn the 3 main parts of a paragraph. I have the writer's self-check worksheet displayed on this slide for you, Dr. Holman. The slide is very explanatory of the processes involved in this lesson plan design. The teacher models the writing process by having the students describe me, and then I modeled the whole outlining process as well as the writing process, including a topic sentence, supporting details, a concluding sentence for a descriptive paragraph of myself, and hopefully this models for the students how to do it, how to write a descriptive paragraph describing each other. Now we have, for the editing section of the writing sub-processes stage, editing, we have once again the self-check rubric from Hogue, an excellent writing book that was not part of the assigned reading, but I've had this through the years, and I use this book for reference purposes for this course. Okay, for evaluation, there's the reader's response worksheet for peer review for the low intermediate writing students, as well as the Appendix 3 in Evans. Evans talked about, as you may recall, the error correction symbols, students writing for 10 minutes at the beginning of class, and then the teacher using the error correction symbols to correct their errors. Students take it home, record it in a log, and then they submit a second draft, hopefully error-free. That's something I also plan to implement in the course, although I didn't use Evans' methodology and model specifically for this specific lesson plan, but I wanted to mention that in my audio today. Anyway, for the low beginning readers, I will do a formative assessment for these folks, in which I do informal observations of students impaired reading in small groups throughout the course of the semester. At the beginning of the semester, I evaluate them in terms of their word recognition skills and decoding skills to determine who are the low-level readers in my class and who are the high-level readers. So with the low beginners, it's not always easy to implement quantitative measurements with them. All we do have with them is the CASAS test, which I did mention in my final lesson plan, submitted to you early this week. Low beginning writers, here we can do the peer review feedback, whole class teacher feedback with these folks. The low beginning writing, we do the graphic organizer with these folks. But there is teacher peer feedback for the student booklets. So with the low beginning reading, we have the graphic organizer, which the teacher will evaluate. Low beginning writing, we have the graphic organizer, which the teacher will evaluate. Low beginning reading, formative assessment. In conclusion, I have a level-appropriate selection of reading and writing materials. The lesson plan designs for the low beginning reading, low beginning writing, and low intermediate writing are well thought out, organized, and in keeping with the 4 strands principles described in Nation. My teacher expectations and instructions, I believe, are well linked in the lesson plans, and there are feedback opportunities for students for me to determine if my lesson objectives have been met. To reiterate, with the low beginners, it's a formative assessment process, which I do very faithfully and carefully. With my low beginning writing students, we have the graphic organizer, which will determine whether the students have understood the parameters of the assignment. And with the low beginning writing assignment, we have the graphic organizer, which I can determine if the students have met the assignment. Here are my references on the next slide. And here's a picture of my low beginning students in the morning. This was a class party at the end of the semester. And you see me in the center. Best wishes to you, Dr. Holman. Hopefully this completes, my coursework is complete for the course and I will graduate. Best wishes. Have a joyous holiday.